Hello, I'm Arsiyanti Ardie. I'm called Yanti, and you can find the spellings of my name in the video text. Then Google me to find out if the rumors are true or if I've just fed you a bunch of complete lies. My LMNOPs, off the top of my head, some are missing, are undergrad biology and chemistry at the University of Redlands in Southern California, lab and clinical research at Genentech in bioengineered pharmaceuticals, certified emergency medicine continuing education instructor in ACLS, PALS, EKG, BLS, a couple more. I volunteered at inner city clinics either certifying staff in first aid and basic life support or serving patients at a mobile clinic. I am published in both the sciences and humanities in journals nobody reads. I did graduate work in comparative literature at the University of Southern California. Don't ask me what comparative literature is. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. And teaching, managing instructors, and developing curriculum at USC's writing program. I got a few awards there. Fast forward, I married someone who's actually accomplished and famous with real awards. I consult for our family aquaculture business, and I have my own business as a triathlon coach and do pastoral care, including counseling. I have nothing to gain from this video unless you just want to send me money, which, let's face it, like most of us, I could really use. You can find my contact information in the text for this video. Please do not send death threats unless you plan to carry them out. Also, things did not work out well for the last two people who threatened to kill us, so that's also public information. If you should care to look it up, I wouldn't. And I don't know why people ask me what I think about things, much less actually listen to it, but I do genuinely appreciate those who would consider my input. Probably in order for them to do the opposite of what I've suggested. Either way, I hope I can be of some use. And I have had hundreds, by this time, possibly thousands of links to videos, journal articles, review articles, research articles, peer-reviewed and not, preprint, blogs, etc. sent to me, tagged me in. I've posted them. You've posted them to me. Every iteration asking what my thoughts are on them in relation to SARS-CoV-2 and the disease it causes, which is called COVID-19. However, the particular video I'm responding to in this video has been referenced and sent, tagged, posted, messaged to me more than any other. And the longer I watched it, the more thoughts I did have. So these may not be as coherent as any of us would like, but here I go. I am talking about the video entitled Dr. Erickson, COVID-19 Briefing. I hate video. I'm definitely not as pretty as those guys are. And, but I can scan and assess text and data very quickly because that's my training and work. But the world has an obsession with YouTube and Wish and Imager and lots of things I don't use very much. In any case, the text is accompanying for those who are like me and for vision challenged people like my husband. Okay, so I gave you my credentials and how to verify them from the outset because lying about or grossly misrepresenting your credentials is never a good start. Doctors Erickson and Massihi claim they're ER physicians with 20 years of research experience in virology, epidemiology, immunology, a couple of other specialties. What they currently do is own and practice at their private health clinic called Accelerated Urgent Care. That's briskly marketing their COVID-19 testing and stands to profit well from that, and by directly marketing their clinic services to patients and hopefully getting them. Presenting COVID as not that big a deal and opening up communities, meaning lifting restrictions on activities, groups, where you can go, means that as a private facility, they will now get all the patient traffic they would not otherwise have gotten, because people would have just stayed home with otherwise what are considered minor, they don't feel minor, granted, headaches, scrapes, sprains, strains, that kind of thing. But now if things open up and getting COVID isn't really a huge possibility, or even if you do, it's not a big deal, then you may as well go and get it checked out at doctors who are going to care for you, right? You don't take classes in virology, immunology, epidemiology, microbiology for 20 years. You take them in university as an undergraduate. You might also take some of them in medical school in the United States, which has a slightly different system than Europe and Australia, for example. If you go into clinical research, which I'm not seeing that these guys did, they're practitioners, not researchers. If you go into clinical research, you teach those classes after a few years. I have tutored some of those classes. I have assessed the work product of students from some of those classes, but I haven't taken them for 20 years, although I'm recently refreshing myself on simply Introduction to Virology, which is usually an upper division undergraduate or standard graduate course. Anyways, my general opinion on their video is that it's a brilliant marketing tool. I can't even say it's bad science, because it simply isn't science and it's not math. I'm taking these words directly from the Accelerated Urgent Care website. At Accelerated Urgent Care, we have designed all of our urgent care clinics to solve some of the most common challenges and frustrations that patients have with medical care today. But we are not an emergency facility. That's their own words on their own website. They work at urgent care. They claim to be emergency medicine specialists and researchers. I did very basic Google foo, and I cannot confirm that they are board certified in emergency medicine, acute or intensive care specialties. They may well be. They may well be, and if you can beat my Google foo and find that information, that'd be great. Please post it. They may very well be. I just can't find it quickly. And I wish they'd provided that information in a clear, coherent way from the beginning. That's generally what, if you have those credentials, you do. But again, I don't know. Help me. Look, people who go to urgent care, you may have, I have, I've taught at one. People who go to urgent care are nowhere near as sick as those going into emergency care. We would generally have fairly mild symptoms. Again, they don't feel mild, but they're considered mild. They're not immediately life-threatening. They're not in the next hour or so going to be life-threatening, probably not even if you did nothing life-threatening. And as such, the Accelerated Urgent Care website specifically instructs you, if you do have more significant symptoms, to seek emergency care at a hospital. So, yes, look, private clinics, private hospitals, they are losing revenue. But as such, they have a very vested interest in reopenings of all kinds. And these two doctors who made this video are speaking only from their own experience and perspective in a medium-sized town, in a medium-sized county in one state, California. It's a really big state, but still. But they do purport to speak for the whole state, and actually quite a bit more than that. One of their initial points criticized many of the large global and national institution models, the initial models for SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19. The difficulty is there was no single or even just a few initial models. Every country and institution did its own statistics. And at that point, we didn't have very many, and I'll get to this later. We still don't have that many, considering they did their own statistical analyses and modeling with somewhat different outputs from each one, and in some cases radically different outputs. And, you know, speaking of agendas and bias, which they actually didn't speak of, so I'm just speaking of it, a lot of the data was coming from national, by that I mean state, established country institutions, which of course have a very vested interest in their own country and its place in the world. I mean, that's what they're supposed to be there for. But it does give them a specific bias. What I'm saying is you can't just grand sweep and say initial models, one group, say they're all wrong and imply that therefore you are right. There is some serious selection bias on their part in picking whatever initial models they did. Which one, I'm not sure. I mean, they mentioned a few places, countries, institutions, but you know, they picked their information that they criticize from very, very limited data very early on in this game. And at that beginning, when everyone had very limited information, it was wiser, in my opinion, with an unknown entity, to be more cautious than less cautious. Now is a different time. I certainly agree on that. However, the more we as scientists and research clinicians find out about SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19, the disease it causes, the more we find out how much this virus, its patterns of infectivity and disease progression in different populations, places, and contexts are really unpredictable. That's what's producing so much of this seemingly contradictory information that's out there. Again, from my perspective, there has to be a balance in reopening. And I don't think those doctors disagree with that. I mean, they do talk about, you know, I don't think they use the word staggered, but, you know, steps of what kinds of reopenings. But it's just something to keep in mind, that conflicting information may not mean that there's two sides and one is wrong, the other is not. That's a logical fallacy called false dichotomy, and is frequently used by governments to set peoples against one another. And that's not what I want to do. I really want dinner. That's what I want to do. Sorry. In any case, by balanced, I mean there's a huge spectrum of information, views, agents, agendas out there. And it's really important that we have a broad consideration and listen to the voices that are more transparent and more credible. Speaking of good information, Dr. Erickson says, before making a really powerful grand statement about COVID and death, he picks very limited, skewed data from Kern County, that is, of those tested for SARS-CoV-2 in Kern County. He then uses those data on the entire population of California and then definitively states your chance of dying from COVID-19 is 0.03%. Powerful, definitive. Seems like a statement of fact. The thing is, nobody can definitively state what you as an individual or even a limited group's chances are of dying from COVID-19. There are not enough data in Kern County, California, the US, or the world to make such a statement and have it be true. And in any case, you can never, ever take a statement based on aggregate statistics and directly apply it to an individual. I've been told I have a 50% chance of dying in the next 5 years. That's just one of my conditions. That does not mean I, Yanti, am definitely are not going to die in the next 5 years. What that means is, from all the statistics of the people with that one condition that they currently have in my age group and for my gender, 50% of them died within 5 years of diagnosis. So, take that with a grain of salt. Take his statement with like a cellar of salt, a cubit of salt. Stop being melodramatic, Yanti. It's not making your point well for you. Clearly I have more than one condition. So look, I don't know these doctors. I may well have come across them. They studied and worked in the right time frame and in the right area, as a matter of fact. But I can say, as a matter of fact, that their science and mathematics are incorrect. Either they genuinely don't understand grade school statistics, or they're deliberately trying to mislead some target audience in order to profit themselves in a very depressed market. If they had wanted to present how some private for-profit health businesses are viewing and handling aspects of this pandemic, making sure to include enough other ones in what he's talking about, he might be credible. They might be credible. These doctors would at least be credible enough to represent their own clinic. What's sad is that they could have made similar, excellent, valid points in fairly reasonable, supported, credible ways, and with proper disclaimers. Go right ahead and make as much money as they want and rightfully can. I could go on for 50 plus minutes. I don't want to. You don't want me to. Nobody wants me to. But the final blow for me was I've talked to our local head of the health department, and he's waiting for that. Even though they are in agreement with me, they're waiting for the powers that be who need to lift these restrictions. However, in a press briefing dated Thursday, April the 23rd, Kern County Public Health specifically stated that Director Matt Constantine was not in agreement with Dr. Erickson on that issue. Quote, "Our director has not concurred with the statements that were made yesterday about the need to reopen," unquote. Now, after that press briefing by Kern County Public Health, Dr. Erickson revised his version of a conversation he claimed to have had with Director Constantine. Quote, "When I talked to Matt Constantine, we just went over the data of what's going on in the city, and we were talking about the best approach to get people back to work. We didn't have any agreement on when it would happen," unquote. This is not how medical professionals present themselves. Their practice, it's not how they practice, research, or communicate. In California, these types of misrepresentation and misinformation from medical professionals border, if not cross into, illegal. As such, I am reporting Dr. Dan Erickson to the Osteopathic Medical Board of California. Wait, he didn't tell you he's not an MD? A medical doctor? Okay, to be fair, they are incredibly similar. If anything, one can argue DOs receive even more training while in osteopathy school. DOs can and do practice medicine, specialize, work in equal capacities in hospitals in the United States, clinics, all kinds of health facilities, and they even do clinical research. My point is, MDs and DOs are not exactly the same, and he should have specifically clarified his credential up front. MDs and DOs are licensed by different medical boards. They go to different schools, universities for their medical studies, and they are reported to different medical boards. Therefore, I'm reporting Dr. Arsiyanti to the Medical Board of California. Those boards are the professionals with credentials to judge these physicians' conduct and integrity. I am not. I am offering you my personal observations on their video. I feel these doctors have done a tremendous disservice to the genuine spectrum of contexts, professional and public views, possibilities, and evidence regarding SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19, what they mean for our specific communities and the world at large. If I were anyone else, because I personally wouldn't consider it at all, I would be very, very considerate and cautious in whether I would allow these physicians to represent your view. Thank you very much for taking time to persevere with this ridiculously long, not as long as theirs, but this ridiculously long video. I really appreciate it. I myself wouldn't have. And I leave you with the wish that all of us may be safe, well, cared for, and usefully engaged. Thank you again.